So Sam Altman slash OpenAI quietly dropped a bombshell that I don't think anyone is talking about. And this video needs to be shared around because I think AGI is literally just around the corner. I know many different futurists predict AGI being 2029. People like Ray Kurzweil predicts that AI will surpass human intelligence and the Turing test by 2029, and that we're going to have AGI by around this time. But I believe that it's actually quite earlier than that. And if you're wondering about Elon Musk, we did do a video on that where Elon Musk actually stated that he believes that we only have a few years left before we do have AGI, and he predicts this around 2029 or 2027, but I will have a full clip for you.
Like my prediction for AGI would roughly match that, which I think Ray Kurzweil at one point said 2029. That's roughly my guess too, give or take a year. So if it takes like an additional 6 months or 12 months for AGI, that's really not a big deal. If it's like spending a year to make sure AGI is safe, probably worthwhile, if that's what it takes. But I wouldn't expect it to.
So what is this bombshell that OpenAI secretly dropped? Well, according to this article, and I did see a few screenshots going around on Twitter, but we now do have the information, so we can actually verify this small change. This article says OpenAI has quietly changed its core values. Now, core values are that of a company where a company is going to be focusing on, okay? So, for example, if you start a company selling cupcakes, your core values are going to be maybe quality cupcakes, healthy cupcakes, and just great customer satisfaction. And for OpenAI, the core values have been changed, okay? You can see ChatGPT creator OpenAI quietly revised all of the core values listed on its website in recent weeks, putting greater emphasis on the development of AGI, artificial general intelligence. And if you don't know what AGI is, Sam Altman has described AGI as the equivalent of a median human that you could hire as a co-worker. And essentially why AGI is going to be a game changer is because AGI would be a one-size-fits-all for pretty much any computer system or any system where you could have a human in it. So AGI would fundamentally not only change the internet, but pretty much change the world as we know it. I mean, AGI could literally go ahead and create you a video. It could go ahead and create you a song. It could go ahead and do research for you and interact with many different applications. AGI will change the world. So it goes on to state that OpenAI's careers page previously listed 6 core values for its employees. Okay, so they show and give us a link to this screenshot page. Well, it's actually the Internet Archive. So this is the screenshot of this page. This is the Wayback Machine. Essentially, what you can do is you can use the Wayback Machine on any website and any web page to see if there were changes made to that page by flicking through the dates. And of course, this is where the core values are right now at that time in September the 5th, 2023. So you can see it's audacious, thoughtful, unpretentious, impact-driven, collaborative, and growth-oriented. So this talks about bold bets and aren't afraid to go against established norms. They're welcoming diversity of thought. They're not deterred by the boring work and not motivated to prove we have the best ideas. Then, of course, deeply about real-world implications and applications. And of course, you can see continuous learning and growth. Now, what's interesting is if we go to that same webpage today, okay, and you'll see that this is completely changed, okay? Now, this core values section, you can see that it now states at the top, AGI focus. We're committed to building safe. So you can see right here that currently, the core values have shifted to AGI focus, and it says we are committed to building safe, beneficial AGI that will have a massive positive impact on humanity's future. Anything that doesn't help with that is out of scope. So that is crazy because they've put this as the first point, meaning that currently something has changed to OpenAI to where they've decided that AGI is going to be their North Star. And by North Star, I mean their focal point for where the company is going to go, which means that systems like ChatGPT and DALL-E 3 are going to potentially be subparts of this AGI. And what's interesting is that they said anything that doesn't help with that is out of scope. So maybe this means that OpenAI was working on certain things and certain products that weren't necessarily going towards AGI, but may still be AI based. And now they've decided, you know what, we're not going to be working on that anymore. We've now decided to just be focusing on AGI. So that is why this is a secret bombshell that they secretly dropped, silently updating their page, and we now know that this is pretty insane. Now, further on in the video, I'm going to talk about some more leaks which were absolutely incredible that show us that this could have potentially been predicted by a few comments on Twitter and on Reddit. So you can also see that they also talk right here about scale. We believe that scale in our models, our systems, ourselves, our processes, and our ambitions is magic. When in doubt, scale it up. So you can see that this means across the board, they're trying to scale up their efforts and ramp up exactly what they're doing. This is a company that is not slowing down. I think GPT-5 is going to be a monumental upgrade from what everyone even thinks, and it's definitely going to shock a lot of people. I mean, DALL-E 3 for me definitely shocked me because it is currently better than Midjourney, and Midjourney is pretty high quality stuff. So I think this is going to be really interesting because AGI is something that will literally change the entire internet, change the entire world, and we aren't really sure what happens after AGI, because if there's an AGI with an IQ of, let's say, 155 or 160, one that's far above any standard human and technically considered genius level, this means that we could definitely scale this AGI and have it running in multiple countries on multiple different systems, executing multiple tasks and speeding up the level of scientific research tenfold, which would unlock many different scientific breakthroughs, which could have a range of different important consequences. Now, don't mind about my definition about AGI. Look at what OpenAI said. So back in 2018, and of course, this is 5 years ago, so maybe they have changed their definition, but this is still on their page. They say, this document reflects the strategy we've refined over the past 2 years, including feedback from many people, internal and external, to OpenAI. The timeline to AGI remains uncertain, but our charter will guide us in acting in the best interest of humanity throughout its development. OpenAI's mission is to ensure that artificial general intelligence AGI, by which we mean highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work, benefits all of humanity. We will attempt to directly build safe and beneficial AGI, but we'll also consider our mission fulfilled if the work aids others to achieve this outcome. So I want to talk about two words that are pretty crazy here, okay? We know about autonomous systems, okay? And autonomous basically means that this AI isn't exactly free. It does work within the confines, but it can, do a Google search. It can call upon certain tools. It does have a sense of its own autonomy, which I don't think is consciousness, but it is a step up from ChatGPT, because what's different about ChatGPT versus autonomous systems is that autonomous systems run by themselves. They don't need you to prompt them. They'll simply read a task or find out what needs to be done, and then they'll execute that with lightning speed. Whereas with ChatGPT, we need to be able to prompt it, ask it, how's the weather when we're browsing the internet, or ask it, can you write a paragraph about this for me? And then it outputs that information. Other than that, it doesn't really exist out of that scope. Now, what was also interesting is that they said we will attempt to build directly safe AGI, which means that this doesn't have to go right. I mean, it could fail. We know that AGI is definitely going to be something that is pretty hard, but at the same time, AGI is an advanced level of artificial intelligence that could be potentially a bit dangerous, because we're starting to move into murky waters, which means that we don't know exactly what's going to happen when these systems are deployed in the wild. Now, before we go on to these points, because there's some very interesting stuff, I want to talk about something that is so interesting that I think you need to pay attention to this if you are someone that is in the AI space, because this doesn't have enough people talking about it, and it is literally the biggest thing in terms of AI news that you could ever find. So pay attention. If it's one part of the video, pay attention to what I'm about to say. So on September the 18th, 2023, Jimmy Apples tweeted AGI has been achieved internally. Now you might be thinking, who on earth is Jimmy Apples and why does his statement on AGI even matter? So Jimmy Apples, if you didn't know, is essentially an OpenAI leaker. We aren't sure of what he is or what he does, but we do know that he always does have early information about GPT-4 or whatever OpenAI is currently working on. If you're wondering about any skepticism regarding his statements, previous statements around OpenAI have come out with 100% accuracy. For example, he actually tweeted and got the release date of GPT-4 a week before it was even announced, meaning that he definitely has some kind of inside information. Now, many sources speculate that this Jimmy Apples guy is someone that spies on people near the OpenAI headquarters. Now, you can see that there's a 10-minute video which goes into this, and they talk about how Jimmy Apple says that let's pick a random date and March 14th, and then of course GPT-4 is of course announced on that exact date. We know that this person, whoever they are, definitely has some inside information. Now, back to this statement about AGI. He said that AGI has been achieved internally on September the 18th, 2023. Now, what's crazy is that a week later, the CEO, Sam Altman, tweeted that AGI has been achieved internally, okay? And he tweeted this on a certain post. And then what was crazy was that he actually edited this comment and said, obviously, this is just memeing. When AGI is achieved, it will be announced, and it won't be announced with a Reddit comment. So at the same time, it seems that Sam Altman is aware of this OpenAI leaker, and he understands that whatever is going on behind the scenes, that Jimmy Apples is likely to know a decent amount about it. So at the same time, I find it super interesting that Jimmy Apples goes ahead and says AGI has been achieved internally. Then a little bit over a month later, OpenAI start to talk about AGI and state that AGI is simply their main focus and their core values. Anything that doesn't help with that is out of scope, which leads me to believe that Sam Altman and his team at OpenAI are much closer to AGI than we initially think, which means that the timelines for AGI continue to shorten. And this is something that continually blows my mind. There isn't any other industry where the timelines for advanced technology keeps on decreasing. Something like this is just unheard of. But of course, this is artificial intelligence. So what do they talk about AGI when they are planning for it? So OpenAI posted about this where they said, planning for AGI and beyond. Our mission is to ensure that artificial general intelligence, AI systems that are generally smarter than humans, benefits all of humanity. So Sam Altman says, our mission is to ensure that artificial general systems benefit. So it says, if AGI is successfully created, this technology could help us evaluate humanity by increasing abundance, turbocharging the global economy, and aiding the discovery of new scientific knowledge that changes the limits of possibility. These three things are going to be major shakeups. If OpenAI within the next 18 months announces AGI, I don't think you understand how quickly the world is going to have to adapt to our new future. Massive job loss is going to be coming because companies are going to see that this system, this AGI, is going to be able to do literally the work of 10 workers for half the price of that, or even 1/10 of the cost for these workers that you have to pay a complete salary, you have to provide them with benefits, you have to have a HR. Certain companies are just going to be laying off entire workforces and just replacing them with AGI. And I think that that will definitely shake up the economy, because I don't think our economy is suited to having maybe 30 to 20% of the workforce just immediately being out of a job. That's definitely going to be something that rocks the financial boat. In addition, the reason the world is going to change is because if we have these AGI autonomous agents doing scientific research at the same level that these other researchers are doing it for 1/10 of the cost, we will have ridiculous scientific discoveries and increased rate, which means that each scientific discovery is going to push society further. And then, of course, as you know, that's going to change the world even further. So, of course, it says, on the other hand, AGI would also come with serious risk of misuse, drastic accidents, and societal disruption. Because the upside is so great, we do not believe it is possible or desirable for society to stop its development forever. Instead, the developers of AGI have to figure out how to get it right. And although we cannot predict exactly what will happen, and of course our current progress could hit a wall, we can articulate the principles we care about most. So of course, they basically talk about how AGI is going to be gradually transitioned into the world. So they're not just going to wake up one day and gradually deploy 10 million AGIs all over the internet. It's going to be gradual, which means it's going to give people, policymakers, and institutions time to understand what's happening. Now, of course, you're here, you're on this side of the internet, you're on this side of technological advancements, which means you're paying attention. So you know that this is coming, which means you do have time to prepare. And as it says, for people to collectively figure out what they want while the stakes are relatively low. You can see that they also talk about how to deal with job displacement and more. As our systems get closer to AGI, we are becoming increasingly cautious with the creation and deployment of our models. Our decisions will require much more caution than society usually applies to new technologies, and more caution than many users would like. Some people in the field like to think the risks of AGI and other systems are fictitious. We would be happy if they turned out to be right, but we're going to operate as if these risks are existential. So they're trying to say that, look, this is pretty crazy. We understand that AGI, if it happens, when it happens, is going to shake up society, and we're not going to be able to completely plan for that. We're going to have to gradually add it to society and see exactly how it works. So I think this shows us that this bombshell that they've dropped, okay, from them saying that AGI has been achieved internally as a pretty much joke, and then going back on that statement, and then now their core values being completely updated to AGI, I don't think it's that far away. Now, if you're wondering why I don't think it's that far away, we do have to look at other systems which are quite similar to AGI. So essentially what you're looking at here is Microsoft Jarvis, okay? And we did make a video on this, so if you don't want to just look at the footnotes version, you can go ahead and you can essentially look at this video because it talks about how it's essentially a mini AGI. Now, I don't think this video got enough attention as it should have. I mean, it did get 100,000 views, but in the wider scientific community, it wasn't really talked about that much.
It's all open source. So how does this actually work in theory, and why is it so game-changing? So you can see right here that it is broken down into 4 stages. Number 1, we have task planning. This is where you use ChatGPT to analyze the question that the user input to understand exactly what they're asking. Then you have model selection. So of course, like I said, Hugging Face is a website that has many different AI softwares that can do many different things. Essentially, this is where ChatGPT must then make sure that it selects the right software for the right user input. Then of course we have task execution. This involves the execution of the task and then of course returning those results to ChatGPT. Then of course we have finally response generation. This is where ChatGPT is used to integrate all the prediction of all the models and just give the user the final response. Definitely something very interesting. Now you might be wondering, what else is there about this that makes it so crazy? Well, we're about to get into some key examples that you need to see. If you're wondering what this is like, it's actually quite like GPT-4, but I would argue that it's better. Now it's time to take a look at some of the examples. So right here, you can see that we have the first question. It says, please generate an image where a girl is reading a book and her pose is the same as the boy in the image. Now, of course, the image is a JPEG. And then it also says, interestingly enough, then please describe the new image with your voice. So the reason this example is so interesting and so important is because there are many different things that the user has actually requested, and it means that there are many different large language models that needed to be used in order to get the end result. Now, you can also see in stage 1 where it says task planning that there are 6 different tasks that it identifies, which just goes to show ChatGPT's analysis of tasks. And of course, then on stage 2, you can see that it then chooses the different models for each one. You can see that it chooses one for pose control, it chooses one for object detection, and it of course chooses one for the image class. Then of course we have task execution, where it decides to execute on every single task that it needs to do. And then of course it has response generation, where it combines everything and gives the user a final response. Here we can actually see exactly what that response is. You can see that image 1 is the image that was given by the user to ChatGPT, or Jarvis as you would now call it. And you can see right here, it's then managed to translate that into image 4, and of course the audio that we do get. You can also see it says the image you gave me is of a boy, and of course you can see every single model that they decided to use. Not sure why they decided to use yellow text. It is definitely what is so interesting is because it doesn't just include one question. It includes a single question but many different inputs. You can see here that there are around 3 to 4 images that include a singular question, which means that this is a pretty difficult question for Jarvis. So you can see right here that the user actually asks, how many zebras are in these pictures? And of course, we know that there are 4, there are 3 in the bottom picture, and of course, 1 in the last picture. Now, of course, you can see right here, by the response from Jarvis, you can see that it actually managed to get this question right. It says, therefore, there are 4 zebras in these pictures. Is there anything I can help you with? And what's really cool, it actually submits these images back with the zebras actually outlined in complete detail. So
just to show you how quickly AI can be developed and how fast things moves, this is Midjourney versions compared. You can see that literally 18 months ago, or I'm not sure how many months ago it is from the date, but you can see that in February 2022, this is version 1. Then of course, literally a year later, a year and a couple months later, we have version 5.2, which is pretty much photorealism and ridiculous levels of quality, which goes to show that AI moves quicker than most people did expect. I truly did not see this coming. When I heard about Midjourney version 4, I thought that was genuinely the best it's going to get. I had no idea that photorealism was just around the corner. And Midjourney are adding many new features all the time. So think about that when you try to think about timelines, as timelines sometimes do hit stagnations, but often not. What we're currently seeing is that acceleration point where it seems to be that there might be some exponential growth going on, which could definitely shorten the timelines. Now, of course, we don't know when AGI is going to be released. Maybe there's going to be a great barrier that needs to be solved. Maybe there's something we're not thinking about, but I think that all sources currently do point towards AGI not being far out of the future, especially with Google working on Gemini and OpenAI stating that AGI is essentially what they want now, and that's all they're focusing on.